Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about something pretty personal, something that I honestly wish someone had sat me down and explained when I was much younger. We are going to dive into my money story, specifically focusing on what I got completely wrong when I was 22 and fresh out of college, and how that naive way of thinking ended up costing me quite a bit. It is a story full of lessons learned the hard way, but lessons that I truly believe can help you avoid some of the same bumps in the road. When I was 22, the way I saw money was, well, let's just say it was incredibly simple, and not simple in a smart, minimalist kind of way. More like simple in a completely clueless way. I did not really see money as a tool that could work for me instead. It was this magical thing that appeared in my bank account every 2 weeks, and its sole purpose, as far as I was concerned, was to be spent almost immediately. The idea of investing, of making my money grow, it just was not even on my radar. I had no concept of how money could actually be a servant, working diligently in the background to build something bigger for my future self. My long-term financial framework, if you could even call it that, was basically non-existent. For me, money hitting my account meant one thing: it was party time, it was time to go out with friends, hit the bars, maybe grab some new clothes at the mall, or upgrade some gadget I thought I absolutely needed. I was finally making real money for the first time, and I wanted to feel that freedom, that sense of accomplishment. And oh boy, did lifestyle inflation hit me hard and fast. I went from seeing a few $100s per Pascal check in college to suddenly seeing a few thousand right after graduation. It felt like I had unlocked a whole new level of life, a different kind of freedom. This was without a doubt the most money I had ever seen in my life up to that point. So naturally, almost without me even noticing it, my spending just skyrocketed, my standard of living went up quickly, and my definition of what was quote-unquote normal spending completely shifted. And because there were no immediate sirens going off in my financial life, everything just felt fine in the moment. And to be fair, I do not think this is some wild or totally irresponsible way to live when you are in your early 20s. I am not here to tell you to live like a monk or that you can never have fun. I am not saying you have to eat ramen noodles every single night or live in the absolute cheapest place you can find. That is just not realistic for most people, and it is certainly not sustainable. And that is definitely not the main point I want to make in this video. The real problem was not that I enjoyed my money. The problem was that I had absolutely no framework for what that money was supposed to do for me in the long term. Almost every single financial decision I made back then was purely in the present moment. I gave zero thought to the future, and I completely failed to realize that I would eventually inherit all the consequences of those short-sighted habits. I was forming in my early 20s. At 22, I had no real sense of delayed gratification when it came to money, and the powerful concept of compound interest or the immense benefit of starting to invest early, those were completely foreign to me. The real cost of that mindset, it did not show up right away. And that is precisely why it is so incredibly easy to fall into this money trap, and one of the biggest reasons I am making this video today. The true cost, it shows up quietly years down the road in the form of missed opportunities, lost compounding growth, irretrievable time, and thousands upon thousands of dollars that you will just never get back or reclaim. That cost, it eventually hits you later, maybe in your 30s or 40s, when you suddenly feel financially stuck, like you have not moved the needle in years. So I know that is a pretty long introduction, but the reason I am sharing all of this with you today is because I genuinely, truly wish I had stumbled across a video just like this when I was in my early 20s. So, if you are younger and watching this right now, please take this advice from someone who has lived through that phase and learned some extremely tough lessons along the way. I am going to walk you through why my perspective on money is so different now, what specific lifestyle changes I actually made that did not make my life miserable, and how simply understanding the basics of personal finance quietly transformed the way I think about my future, the options I might have, and the kind of life I am building right now at 27 years old. The biggest, most profound shift in how I think about money now is that I no longer see it as just something to spend, or even just something to save. I see money as an incredibly powerful tool that can actually be working hard for me in the background of my life, even while I am out here just enjoying my life and living it. I like to think of money as a future employee, something I send out into the world, and it diligently does work on my behalf. This frees me up to focus on the things that I truly want to focus on in my life, like building my career, spending quality time on the relationships and hobbies that genuinely matter to me. Instead of money only representing what I can buy today, it now represents time that I can buy back for my future self. Flexibility that I can give myself later down the line. It is going to give me the breathing room I need to create the best possible version of myself that will exist in the future. So, money is not just about having nicer things or a more comfortable lifestyle right now. In the present moment, it is really truly about building a substantial buffer between the level of stress you might have now and the level of stress you could potentially have in the future. If we are being completely honest with ourselves, a huge amount of people's stress often comes from feeling financially trapped, from that constant feeling of living paycheck to paycheck, that unsettling feeling of always waiting for the next direct deposit to hit so you can finally breathe again. And I am not saying this from a place of judgment, absolutely not. I am saying this because I have felt that exact pressure before. and it is absolutely exhausting. One of the main reasons I care so deeply about this stuff now and why I continue to make these videos is because I want people to realize that it does not have to feel like this forever. With enough time and consistent effort, you can slowly, steadily build yourself out of that cycle. I am literally talking about starting from $0 here. Anyone can pick up these habits today and start thinking big picture, start thinking long term. You are essentially buying yourself the ability to walk away from a job you might not like or pursue a passion project without immediate financial pressure. Financial freedom is going to look different for everyone. There is no one size fits all definition, but the underlying fundamental point here is precisely the same. When your money starts working for you instead of the other way around, your life begins to feel significantly less trapped. That is also why the way I think about my paychecks has undergone a complete transformation. Every time I get paid now, my very first thought is not what can I spend this money on. Instead, it is how can I put this money to work for me. I am thinking about how much I want to invest, how much I want to add to my emergency fund, and then, very intentionally, how much I am going to allocate for myself to enjoy what I am doing now. For my discretionary spending, zooming out a bit here, the most effective way to stop feeling financially trapped is not to obsess over every single small purchase you make. That can quickly become overwhelming and counterproductive. The real solution is to start thinking long term and embracing a big picture perspective. You might need to make some small sacrifices in your 20s. You might choose not to inflate your lifestyle immediately. You might delay a few upgrades in your life, put off buying that fancy new car or apartment. But the incredible trade-off here is that you are giving yourself an invaluable chance to invest early and live a completely different life later on. A life where you are not constantly stressed about money and you are not living paycheck to paycheck. A life where you have more options, more choices than you could have ever possibly dreamed of in your early 20s. I also used to incorrectly think that investing was all about being smart enough to pick the perfect stock at the exact right time. It felt like it was all about timing the market perfectly and trying to catch the next big, hot opportunity. What I had not learned yet was that the most powerful part of investing is not your intelligence, and it is certainly not about perfectly timing the market at all. It is literally about sheer consistency and keeping your money invested in the market stretched out over a very long period of time. That right there is the compound interest formula 101. At 22 years old, I cared far more about whether I was doing it perfectly right than whether I was actually doing any investing at all. I was what you might call all bark, no bite. I was the person who talked a big game about investing, but I never actually put anything into action. That perfectionist mindset I had back then. It genuinely delayed my investing journey. I kept waiting to feel 100% confident and knowledgeable before I started doing any sort of investing. And honestly, I really have to thank my mentors at work because they practically forced me to invest in my 401k right off the bat. Even when I still had this hesitant mindset, that small push truly helped my net worth grow to what it is today. But I swear, I could literally be at a $400,000 plus net worth if I had just started investing in my Roth IRA and a brokerage account sooner than I did, and not wasted my money on so many dumb things instead of actually investing. I was deep diving into obscure stock forums and those Reddit threads, all that Wall Street bet stuff. You guys know about that Reddit thread? I was constantly convincing myself that the next big winner was just right around the corner, if only I did enough research. I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to pick the perfect stock instead of doing the boring, obvious thing, which to me at that time could literally have just been investing in a broad market index fund, like the SP 500 across all my accounts. Looking back, the real cost of that delay of postponing my investment was simply missing out on all those precious years of market growth and the incredible power of compounding interest. I am never ever going to be able to go back and reclaim that lost time. That is why I want to emphasize this point so much in this video. Time is truly your best friend when it comes to investing. If I had simply put, let us just say, a few $100s per month into the SP 500 in my early 20s and consistently contributed to my Roth IRA and other brokerage accounts, those early dollars would have had the maximum amount of time to compound, which means they would have quietly done so much more work for me over the next few decades. And I would not have had to invest as heavily as I am now because those earlier contributions would have been compounding so dramatically by now. At the time, I also had this constant nagging fear that as soon as I started investing, the market would inevitably tank. And I would be the one unlucky person in the entire world who bought at the absolute worst possible time. I felt like I was already quote-unquote too late and all the big gains had already happened. But I did not understand back then how dollar cost averaging truly worked, and being a long-term investor completely changes the way you experience short-term volatility or market drops. So when you invest consistently over time, market downturns are not going to be some scary thing that you absolutely have to avoid. In fact, they actually become incredibly valuable moments where you get to buy future growth at a significant discount. You are essentially buying the stocks that you already believe in and are already invested in at a fire sale price. And I know I have been rambling a bit here for a hot minute, but I want to touch on one more crucial mindset shift that I have had about money now that I am 27 years old, because this particular one took me quite a while to fully internalize. For a long time, once I finally started to get the hang of this money thing, I was so laser focused on budgeting better, spending less money, and optimizing every single financial aspect within my control. And what I truly underestimated was just how incredibly powerful increasing your income could be, especially when you are young and you still have the time and flexibility to invest significantly in your own skill sets. Learning how to manage money is absolutely important, do not get me wrong on that front. But there's only so far you can go with a small, stagnant income. At a certain point, the ceiling of your financial progress is inevitably going to get capped by how much money you are actually bringing in. So what fundamentally changed for me was realizing that in my 20s, this is one of the very few phases of life where you can actually afford to be quite aggressive in investing in your own growth, investing in your own knowledge and education, without all these heavy long-term constraints weighing on your head. You typically have fewer responsibilities, more energy to work late nights, learn new skills, take on extra projects, and so on. I mean, the list of opportunities goes on and on. The effort that you put into honing your craft early on is going to also compound in a very similar way that financial investing does, because the skills that you build now can dramatically increase your earning potential for decades later, not just for your next paycheck. You might not even see the immediate fruits of your labor while you are putting in so many late nights and so much time in your 20s to build those valuable skills that are going to pay you dividends later in your life. When your income consistently grows, saving becomes significantly easier, investing becomes far less stressful, and you are not constantly forced to choose between enjoying your life in the present and being financially responsible for the future. It gives you more room, more crucial wiggle room, which is absolutely key to making good financial decisions without feeling like every single choice is going to be this massive, agonizing trade-off. My definition of success has also changed a lot since I was 22. Back then, success often looked like visible upgrades, having nicer things, and acquiring more impressive markers of progress that other people could see and that I could flaunt to. But the freedom that truly comes with financial stability is incredibly subtle. It really is. And you are almost never going to be as loud or as flashy as that one kid who has blown all their money on all the shiny new things, only to find themselves financially vulnerable later. And you do not truly appreciate how profoundly powerful financial freedom really is until you genuinely experience it, and what it truly feels like to not be constantly stressed about money. If I could go back in time and talk to my 22-year-old self, I would not lecture myself about maximizing my investment returns or perfectly optimizing every single financial decision, because that would probably just completely overwhelm me and cause me to tune out altogether. Instead, I would tell myself that simply starting earlier dramatically increases your chances to fundamentally change your financial landscape forever. I would tell myself that you do not have to have your entire life completely figured out to start taking your finances and money seriously, and that the goal is not to be absolutely perfect with your finances. The real goal is to approach your finances intentionally and just be incredibly consistent over a very long period of time. So if you are watching this right now and you happen to be younger, please take this as a genuine word of encouragement from your older, slightly wiser Unkey here on YouTube. And if you are a bit older and you feel like you are late to the game, please take this as a powerful reminder that while the absolute best time to start investing might have been yesterday, the second best time, the next best time to start investing and taking your finances seriously is unequivocally today. And that is pretty much all I had for this video today. If you felt this video was helpful in any way and it made you think about money a little differently, or perhaps made you reflect on your own financial journey, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I will be posting more personal finance videos just like this one here on the channel, and I will see all you guys in the next one.